Welcome back to the Ultra Catalyst podcast. You know me, I'm Steven, the host. Welcome for everybody joining. Thanks for being here. Let's dive right into what we're going to be talking about. So, over the last year and a few days, I've been keeping the power list, which is a list of 5 critical items that you focus on every day. And I'm going to talk about what my win loss percentage is over the 365 days, what some of the strategies I use so I could actually win the day, tell you how the power list came about, and what's next. Now, this is very key for anyone that wants to take themselves from right here, not being disciplined, to being highly uber disciplined and driving things forward that are going to improve their life. It's that simple. Now, there are other tools out there, and you are welcome to use them. I've used plenty of them. Some just haven't stuck. I'll be honest with you. Some look good. You start using them. After a while, you just fall out of the habit. And it happens. Things like that are going to occur when you're attempting to break your old habits and patterns and routines to build solid discipline to move your life forward. I got tongue tied there. That was freaking awesome. Well, let's get started. Now, for those that don't know what a power list is, let me take you back about 3 or 4 years ago when I was just starting out, getting more into personal development. I came across a podcast called the MFCEO Project. It was hosted by Andy Frisella, who's the CEO and founder of First Form and several other businesses. Now, in this episode, it's number 107, go check it out. He talks about win the day, and he has 2 co-hosts on. Got Ben Newman, which is a peak performance coach, and then Vaughn Kohler, sorry, I spaced on his last name. I remember it, who's a pastor and also one of the co-hosts. Great guys, all 3 of them together. But let's talk about that 107 episode. So in the episode, Andy talks about different strategies that he's used over decades of how he's able to accomplish so much in so little time while building better discipline to drive those critical tasks forward to accomplish and achieve his goals and beyond. So now in this episode, they talk about what's called the power list. It is a list that you're going to take every single day of 5 critical items. These items could be in family, fitness, faith, spirituality, mindset, business, health, wellness, whatever you think it is, whatever you're aspiring to be on your vision board or your long-term goals, 3, 5, 10 plus years. Think in terms about breaking each one of those into bite-sized chunks. Well, those are going to be the daily actions that you're going to need to do and build a routine around so you're marching towards achieving each one of your goals. So let me tell you how the power list works, and then I'll get into how I've used it and what I'm going to continue to do. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to identify what your goals are, right? And then you're going to break them down. So work backwards and say, every day I need to do A, B, C, D, or 1 through 5. And those things are going to move me forward on my goals, right? These are the critical tasks. You're not going to put down your goal of the day or your monster goal you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You're not going to write that every single day. I'm going to go make $1 million, right? Because the reality is very few people, sorry to say, are going to go out and actually make $1 million in one day, right? That's going to be very tough for an individual to do until they get so far ahead within how their business is that usually they're no longer just working for themselves, right? They're taking care of all kinds of employees and all different kinds of people that are employed through that business across all the different channels that support that business. So you're not going to write down your goal and hammer away at your goal every single day, right? Let's just get that out of the way, because reality is that's not going to work. You got to break them down into bite-sized chunks where you're going to be able to make a little progress here, make a little progress there, little progress there. And before you know it, when you look back along the journey, you're already halfway to your goal, or you're 2/3, or now you finish your goal and you're way past it. So let's talk about those 5 tasks. So what you're going to do is break out your cell phone, maybe a piece of paper, or you got an app that you want to keep notes on your phone, tablet, whatever it is. Maybe you even got a whiteboard behind you where you're going to list all your stuff out there. That's totally cool. When I first started, I was using a journal to write down my 5 items every single day. So for example, here's some things that you might want to consider putting on your list. A long time ago, I struggled with picking up the phone and calling leads, right? Pretty straightforward. Well, guess what? You got leads, you got to attempt to close them, set appointments. Well, you're going to want to call X number of leads per day, right? So let's just use some simple numbers. So on this, my goal at that company was I wanted to make about $100,000 in supplemental income because I already have a full-time job, right? So these are all side hours that I'm putting in. Well, on my goal, I basically backed out that number that said, okay, I know I'm going to be able to close about 1 out of 5 calls. I need to make at least 5 calls every single day. And over the course of the week or 5 days, I could potentially close between 4 and maybe 6, maybe 7 different sales, right? That's what I was thinking. So on my power list, I said, okay, on today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to place 5 calls for this side hustle, right? This is all side work, not part of my normal day job, right? This is all just additional activities that I want to pursue that are going to push me farther forward into essentially a secondary income down the line, right? So thinking way long term, but I got to break them into small bites. The next one is, hey, I know I have to improve my nutrition and my health. Well, I'm just going to write something down as simple as then stick within my macros that I've calculated out per day, or follow my meal plan, or avoid dessert every day, right? Or whatever it is, right? Now, those are just 2 line items there. I may have a third one that's I'm going to read a book every single day. Maybe I'm going to spend 10 page or time spending on 10 pages or 30 minutes until I make it into a habit, because I've struggled with reading for long times of my life, right? So what I'll do is I'll write down, focus on completing 10 pages per day. Now, obviously, just like you, I work in a company. I'm also an entrepreneur, or striving to be an entrepreneur, a podcast host, an ultra endurance athlete, etc. The list goes on, right? We all got busy lives that we enjoy doing. Well, I also want to make time for my family. So on my list, it is, hey, block out 1 hour of quiet time or dedicated time, no cell phones, no internet, no distractions, just me and the family, whether if that's my wife or my kids or all 4 of us or one or whatever it is, right? I'm going to purposely put there because I know I need to focus on developing that relationship for the long term. Do you kind of see the types of things that you may put on your list? Now, this is how it works. So I just listed 4. Let's just throw another one on there. Let's say I've been having terrible sleep and I want to get to bed by 10 p.m. at night, right? So whatever I do, I got to crawl into bed, finish all my other items before 10 at night. That way I win the day. So as I wake up the next morning, what am I going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my list of 5 critical items, and I'm going to say, hey, these are the core things that I got to do today, along with the other shitload of stuff that I got to do for my work or my family or daily routine, brush my teeth, do the laundry, go grocery shopping, fill up gas, whatever. But remember, I'm just focusing on that 5. Now I have to fit them into my schedule the best I can, wherever I can throughout the day. So let's say I go through and I follow my meal plan all day. Boom, cross that one off. I block time for my family an hour, cross that one off. And the list goes on. Now, at the end of that day, when I look at the list, if I've crossed out all 5 items, I've won that day. That's as simple as it is. Now, let's say I go to the next day. Now, some of those items may carry over because of the way that I've written them, right? Block 5 minutes of time to do this type of activity, block an hour here, get to bed by 10, follow a meal plan, whatever the case is. Do you understand how that works? Now, I'm on day 2 and I've gotten a bunch of distractions. I've gotten a bunch of curveballs at work. And at the end of the day, I look at my list. I've been crossing out and hammering away, but I only completed 3 out of 5. Well, I'm going to mark that day as a loss. And then I'm going to go to the 3rd day and I'm going to follow the same thing. And remember, I got to fit them in wherever I can to make sure that I get them done. The whole goal is to slowly get the ball rolling, build momentum over time towards these activities that are going to serve you in the longer term down the line in your life. So think some sort of goal that you're going to get 30, 60, 90 days out, 1, 2, 3, 10 years out, whatever it is, you want to start making progress. Now, I'll tell you what, as you're moving along, you're going to want to try to win the day and then win the week and then the 2nd week and 3rd week and 4th week. Now, are you going to win every day? If you do, that's fantastic. It might mean that maybe you don't have hard enough goals on there, or tasks, I should say, to complete. Or maybe you're putting things there that you're not actually developing or struggling, and they could just be activities of, I have to complete this for my day job. I have to go outside and mow the lawn once a week. Those aren't critical tasks. Those are things that you do. Those are the obligations that you need to do day in and day out just to survive, right? Or keep your house tidy, whatever it is, right? So think about that, because sometimes you could get caught up and say, oh, I'm going to go meet so and so for lunch and we're just going to hang out and bullshit, or we're going to go drink some beers or whatever it is. Those aren't critical tasks. Now, unless you're going to meet a client to try to get a sale and it's something that you're not used to doing or not doing on a regular basis, or you're not practicing to do it, well, then count that stuff. But some of these obligation type things, or things that are just part of your role within that business, well, those might not be critical items. So you're going to want to draw a line in the sand where you're going to differentiate between, is this something that I normally have to do, or is this something that I have to develop and strengthen and build a routine and a habit around? If it falls into that secondary or later half items, put those on your list, because those are critical items that are going to serve you as you approach your longer goal. Now, let me call one thing out is, you might be thinking, Stephen, what if I keep adding these things on my list, but I've already built the routine and I'm already doing them second nature. I'm already picking up the phone. I'm making 6 calls a day. I'm spending time with my family. I've already booked out all kinds of date nights and one excursions with one of my kids and then other excursions. What if I'm already doing that stuff? Congratulations. That's awesome. Keep it up. Now on the power list, what you're going to do is you're going to now take that item off. And so maybe you've already blocked an hour of time. You've done it for 2, 3, 4 weeks. You've mastered it. It's now just part of what you're doing on a regular basis. People expect you to deliver on that. Well, you remove that item off and you look at your goal list and say, okay, what's another goal that I want to attack? Now break down the steps that it takes to get there as brief as you can and throw one of those items in there. Now you got 4 critical items you're working on that you've started to work on for some time, and now you got a brand new one, right? Now, the whole goal here is that you are actively pursuing your goals, but you're just taking small chips out of it, right? You're just trying to dig a little bit deeper every time, because you know that there's gems hidden under that rock. You just have to do it over and over again, right? It's about the practice and developing the habits and the discipline to keep going. Now, I'll say that there's some days you're going to run into this, because I did, and I've done it multiple times, where you get overconfident. You win 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And you're like, okay, I'm going to up my critical task. And instead of saying I'm going to book 10 minutes towards something, I'm just going to put finish X, Y, and Z. Even though in the back of my mind, I know that focusing on that effort is actually going to take me like 8 hours. And in reality, I don't have 8 hours during the day that I could actually focus on that. And believe me, that's going to happen. So when I run into those things, you're going to be like hammering away and you're like, okay, I got 4, I got 1 left to do. And it's that elephant on your list because you didn't break it down as far as you could that was actually attainable within the available hours that you have in the day. And so I found myself hammering, putting out crappy work, staying up till 2, 3 in the morning and still not getting stuff done. So I just lost that day. Plus, I bleeded over to the next day where now I'm ran myself ragged. I'm tired. I have no energy. And now I'm staring at 5 items that I'm just like, dude. And then I kind of putz around. Maybe I knock 1 off. Maybe I knock 2 off. But it's so easy when you over plan how much you could accomplish in 1 day, especially if you're overwhelmed already with all the other obligations and responsibilities you have to do in your life, that it's easy to forget that you have to write the power list the night before and you wake up and you're like, okay, what are my credit? Shoot, I didn't write any. And then you make them up on the spot and then you start hammering away at them. And sometimes you try to con the system, if you will. Guess what? You're going to lose that day too. Trust me, I've already tried all that. It's not worth trying to manipulate how you manage the list. The secret sauce within keeping the power list is to do it the night before. Write down what are the 5 critical items that I got to work towards tomorrow. Think about them as you go to sleep, decompress, wake up fresh, recharge, start your day off just like you normally do, whatever that is, whether if you're a morning person, afternoon, night person, you got your stretching, your yoga, meditation, maybe you don't do anything, maybe you read the news, you get coffee, whatever it is, and then just start attacking your goals, or I should say your critical tasks that are on there. Now, essentially, that is what the power list is. And I did talk a little bit long on that, but that's all right. I wanted you to get the gist. If not, if you want more information, go check out the MFCEO project, episode 107. It's called Win the Day. I highly recommend it. Now, let's move into the second part. And this is the key part of today's podcast is, let me tell you about what I started doing a little over a year ago. So I found some people, and I've heard Andy talk about doing the power list for like 1,000 days in a row. Now, what if you were to focus on a skill or a task for 1,000 days in a row? Where would you be? Would you be closer to your goal? Would you stop pursuing your goal? Would you have surpassed your goal and you're on to 2, 3, 4, 5 different goals past that point? Well, I took that as a challenge. And so over a year ago, about 371 days ago, I said to myself, let's do this power list thing for 1,000 days. Earlier, when I've used it before, I made it a few months here and there, had some great days, some bad days, some days I forgot. But you know what? When I look back, I won a lot of days. Not to mention, I've conquered so many different aspirational goals that I have set just by chipping away at them every single day, that I don't know how far I'd be if I didn't start enacting the power list to focus on discipline building. I swear to God. I mean, I am so far ahead based on where I was just a few years ago, all just from taking this power list is very simple and putting it into practice and developing some core habits. So let's talk about where I'm at within this Power List 1000. Now that's a hefty challenge. If you're up for it, definitely start. I'd say if not, just do a power list for a week and then go to a month after that. See what it's like. See if you could start developing habits. It does, as you know, take anywhere from 21 to 28 plus days to start developing a habit. But the thing is, I kid you not, your habits could be lost overnight. You could do very well on a diet for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then maybe you binge over the weekend and then you fall off your diet. It happens. Life happens. Don't be hard on yourself. But let's talk about my 1,000 days. So in 365 days, I just completed that. I did the power list every day. And when I say I did the power list, there was things I was working on every day that are pushing me towards the goals that I have on the board right behind this monitor. And there is a ton of them that I want to accomplish this year. Now, in doing so, I had a lot of good wins right up front. And then I had some terrible days. And then I had terrible weeks where I wasn't winning the days, but I was still completing one or two of the items, right? Still making progress. Maybe I wasn't maximizing my effort to hit 5 during that day, but I was still making progress. I don't feel bad that I necessarily lost a day or 2 days or 3 days in a row. It just shows that there's more opportunities where my discipline is not dialed enough to max out everything that I'm doing in that day to hit 5 for 5 on any given day, right? So if you think about it, if you're going to hit 5 for 5 on a regular basis, that's awesome. If you are a professional baseball player, you'd probably be the number one person that's ever played. The reality is most of the people in the Hall of Fame are only hitting about 300% or 0.300, right? Meaning 3 out of 10 hits at the bat, right? Or getting on base or scoring or whatever. The percentages start to drop the farther you get around the bases, right? So if you think about it, to be a pro, well, they're only swinging the bat thousands and thousands of times, but only about a third of the time are they actually connecting, getting on base, and potentially scoring. So what I'm about to share with you, I feel pretty good for what I've done in a year, considering I'm not a professional. And I'm just early on within forming different disciplines that I'm going to have to use to accomplish the goals that I've set out there, right? It's all about how you position and frame where you're at, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. Now, when I look at 365 days, my total wins were about 177 or 178, which equates to 48.5%. That's right. I won a little less than every other day. So would I have loved to have been at 50% or more? Hell yeah, that would have been fantastic. But you know what? I look back at the days that I was uber focused on crushing that list. Some of those I turned into weeks where I won, and then I turned them into months where I won. And then I had some long strings of strikeouts where I didn't win the day. Obviously, I didn't win the week that week or the month. And then I had some consecutive days where I just lost. And some of it was I accomplished some of the goals that I set, the short term goals. And then I put something new on there, but I left it as a goal, not as a critical task. And so I actually set myself up for failure of not being able to win the day because I was doing these moonshots thinking I had enough time and enough energy to complete a task, which obviously I know it took longer than 4, 6, 8, 12 hours. I mean, some of the things I was putting on my list, in all reality, when I've actually worked the numbers, it's taken me 5 or 6 days to complete them. And I'm talking 5 to 6 days over a 2 to 3 to 4 week period, right? I wasn't mentally calculating and honoring good time management when I was writing the critical tasks. And that happens. We all sometimes think we could do so much in a short amount of time, but we fail to realize how much we could actually accomplish in a long amount of time. So that's why I caution you as you're writing your power list, make sure that it is realistic to a degree. It's very specific and it's time bound, meaning that you know what the objective is and you give some sort of stated parameter where you're going to complete the task or spend that much time to do the task, right? Block 1 hour for a family. Well, that means you got to remove all distractions, right? For me, that was tough initially, especially once you start building momentum, you get excited, your confidence goes through the freaking roof, and you start looking at, oh, wow, you know what? I just freed up my power list on 2 items. Oh, there's 2 other goals up there. Let me break those down into bite-sized chunks and I'll start hammering away at those. And that's exactly what I've done. And so you've seen this swing where you're just on fire. Now, the cool thing is if I look back at when I started, where I was hanging out with other people that were going after the same thing, here's my trajectory. Some of the other folks, their trajectories here, or they just fell off because they weren't putting any active effort into the activities for the goals that they were shooting for, right? Or here I am, I'm just trying to swing the bat every single day just to get on base, just to get on base. Because the reality is the more times you swing the bat, the more times you get on base, the more likely you are to score runs and win the game, right? That's how the power list works. So as you are thinking about what I'm telling you, think through how you're going to be able to break down your goals into bite-sized chunks. And you're just going to start plotting the course day in and day out. Hey, you know what? I'm going to swing a little bit today. I'm going to swing a little farther tomorrow, but I'm going to keep swinging because I'm building consistency. And when I start winning, the momentum's starting to grow. And as that grows, guess what happens? The confidence that is deep down inside of you starts to come out. All those self-doubts of I can't start or I have these huge aspirations, those start to fade away. And yeah, you're going to get some butterflies. You're going to say, oh, I got lofty goals. But most people that have lofty goals, if they're actually going to go after them, they just start and they keep chipping away day in and day out, day in and day out over the long periods, right? That's where the success is. It's not overnight. You're not just going to develop a brand new habit just because you're doing the power list 1 or 2 days, right? This is something that you could use as a tool to develop the habits, routines, and the discipline to build that consistency, gain the momentum, and start attacking your goals with more aggressiveness than you're doing, right? Now, I'll step back and I'll say this. And if you caught earlier about add different things in different areas of your life. Now, some people talk about balance. Well, I got to balance my work and my personal life. I didn't do that. And I got it pretty good in all the different areas because what I did is every day I was starting to pick and choose from different areas, sometimes from 3 or 4 areas a piece, and I'd work on those goals. That way, as I'm moving forward and I'm slowly winning, all those things are rising. And does it look like they're balancing out? Well, it might be, but there were definitely weeks where all I did was hammer away on finances, you know, put systems and processes in place. There was weeks where all I needed to do was focus on emotional stability, spirituality, getting through past traumas and emotional baggage and whatnot, right? Some of those days, I still won. Maybe I didn't get all my 5 lists, but you know what? I've conquered so many things along the path because I was organized, I had a plan, and I knew when I woke up, if I just attacked those 5 items, if I could complete them sooner in the day, that means I had the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to just keep working on 5 items or, you know what, I did 5, let me grab 10 more and try to hammer away. I stopped keeping those lists of like 20, 30, 40 items. Because the reality is after a while, you're just staring at a list of 20, 30, 40 items. There's no prioritization on them. And then when you wake up the next day, you start getting sick of what's on the list because you're not making any progress, right? That's why it's a to-do list, not a power list, right? Power list empowers you to make better decisions, to take swift action, and to start building the momentum towards your long-term goals. So let me step back for just one more second and say 365 days, a win-loss ratio of 48.5%. I could do better than that. If I were to go back 366 days, I wasn't doing the power list. I couldn't tell you how many days I won. Couldn't tell you how I was attacking the goals that I was at. But I will tell you this, I wasn't moving fast enough towards what my dreams were. Because my dreams were there, but believe me, I wasn't making any progress towards them. And life at different areas was piles of shit and in shambles. This is just one tool. We'll talk about more in the coming weeks, but that's the power list and the power it actually has to bring you discipline, to get you to move yourself forward and start attacking your goals, bite-sized bits every single day. Well, that's all I got for you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. If you want more information, you want some examples of how to write a power list, you even want me to talk about some of the things that I won on that I'm super proud of. You've already heard some of them, I've discussed them, but I'll share more about them. Love to connect with you. Hit like, subscribe, leave me a comment, a DM. And lastly, if you could do me a huge favor, share this episode with someone you think that needs help with getting organization, get their structure down, and just building momentum using a simple tool such as the power list. That's all, folks. We'll check in with you next week.